the baby would not stop crying. Not a soft cry, not a tired whimper. It was the kind of cry that clawed at the chest, sharp and endless, as if something deep inside the child knew it was not safe. The millionaire stood at the edge of the bed, his jaw tight, his hands trembling with helpless anger. The room was wide and polished, filled with pale light, white sheets, and quiet wealth. Nurses had come and gone. Doctors had tried and failed. Every rule had been followed. Every machine hummed softly. And still the baby screamed. Then the poor black maid stepped forward. She did not raise her voice. She did not rush. She simply took one slow step closer to the bed. And that was when everything changed. The people in the room saw her uniform first. Faded fabric, careful stitches, shoes worn thin at the heel. She looked small next to the tall windows and the expensive furniture. Her hands were rough, marked by years of work that no one ever thanked her for. Her back was straight, but her eyes carried a weight most people never learned to read. Someone shook their head. Someone else whispered no. The millionaire turned, his face hard with fear and pride. "Tell her to leave. Now." The maid stopped where she stood. She lowered her eyes, not in shame, but in patience. She had learned long ago that silence could be stronger than defense. Her name was Leela. She had been invisible for most of her life. Leela had worked in that house for 7 years. She cleaned rooms no one looked at while they were inside them. She washed dishes still warm from meals she never tasted. She folded clothes that smelled of expensive soap and lives. She moved through the halls like a shadow, careful not to disturb, careful not to be noticed, but there were things Leela noticed. She noticed when voices rose behind closed doors. She noticed when silence lingered too long, and now, she noticed something else. The baby was not crying from pain. The baby was crying from fear. Leela felt it in her chest before she understood it with her mind, a deep pull, like a memory waking up. The kind of feeling that came from holding a child while the world fell apart outside, years ago. Long before this house, before this job, before the quiet rules of other people's lives. Leela had been a mother too. Her backstory lived inside her. Always close. She grew up in a small place where the air smelled of dust and warm rain. Her mother worked long hours and still sang at night. Her father left early. Leela learned to care for younger children before she learned to dream for herself. She learned the sound of hunger, the weight of responsibility, the way fear felt when it sat beside love. She became a mother young. 2 young people said. But when she held her son for the first time, the world narrowed to his breath against her skin. He cried like this baby cried, loud, unafraid, alive. Then came the night that changed everything. Sirens in the distance, shouting, running feet. A wrong place, a wrong time, a world that did not protect everyone the same way. She held her son close, rocking him, humming low. The walls shook. Her heart beat so hard she thought it would break. She whispered calm into his ear even as fear filled her bones. He lived. She survived. But life took its cost. Years later, sickness came quietly. Too quietly. By the time help arrived, it was already late. Leela held her son again, smaller now, lighter than he should have been. She learned a new kind of silence that day, the kind that never leaves. Since then, she had cared for many children, neighbors' babies, friends' babies, babies who slept better in her arms than anywhere else. She never asked why. She never claimed credit. She simply knew how to listen to a child who could not explain their fear. Back in the bright room, the baby's cries grew hoarse. The air felt tight. The nurses avoided each other's eyes. The father paced. The mother sat frozen, tears sliding down without sound, rules pressed down on everyone. She is just the maid. She should stay back. She should not touch. Leela stood still. Her silence stretched, not empty, but full. She saw the way the baby's tiny hands clenched and unclenched. She saw the way the child's eyes darted even while closed. She felt the fear echoing from the bed, bouncing off the walls. Slowly, without asking, Leela sat beside the bed, Someone gasped. Someone whispered again. The millionaire opened his mouth to stop her, but something made Tate. Lila did the unthinkable. She reached out and placed her hand gently on the baby's chest. Not gripping, not pressing, just resting there. It's warm and steady. Then she leaned close and began to hum. Not loud, not for the room, just enough for the baby. The tune had no name. It was older than memory. A sound passed from mother to child when words were not enough. Her voice was low, almost trembling, but sure. The baby's cry faltered. For a moment, it returned, sharp and afraid. Lila did not pull away. She hummed again, slower this time. Her other hand brushed the baby's hair, light as air. Her eyes closed, not in prayer, but in focus. She gave the child her calm. Seconds passed. Then something impossible happened. The crying stopped. Not all at once. It softened. It broke into quiet breaths, then silence. The room froze. The baby slept. Lila stayed exactly where she was, breathing slow, her hands still. Her hum fading into nothing, no one spoke. The millionaire stared at the child, then at Lila. His anger drained into confusion, then into something like shame. He saw, maybe for the first time, the woman who had walked past him every day. The mother stood and stepped closer. Her knees shook. She watched the steady rise and fall of her baby's chest. Tears fell freely now, but they were different. Lighter. A nurse wiped her eyes. The power in the room shifted. Quiet and undeniable. Lila finally lifted her hand and stood. She stepped back into her usual place near the wall, ready to disappear again, but she did not disappear. The millionaire spoke, his voice low, unsteady. She knows how to listen. It was not an excuse, it was not an order, it was a truth. Later that day, the story moved through the house like a whisper. Staff paused when Lila passed. Heads nodded. Eyes softened. Someone offered her a chair during break. Another offered tea. Days later, doctors explained what machines had missed. The baby had been overwhelmed, sensitive to noise, to tension, to fear. What calmed the child was not money or rules or authority. It was presence. Lila was offered more pay, a different role, a title. She thanked them and declined the title. She did not need a new name to know who she was. The final shift came weeks later, during a gathering at the house. Friends and family stood around as the baby slept peacefully in Lila's arms. The room was full, but quiet. Respect filled the space where doubt once lived. The millionaire stepped forward and spoke to everyone. Some strength does not shout, some power does not ask permission. And some heroes work where no one thinks to look. Lila felt the words but did not lift her head. Her dignity had never depended on being seen. As the evening ended, people stood aside to let her pass. Not out of fear, out of honor, and Lila walked on, carrying the calm she always had, because the world is full of unseen battles, and sometimes the ones who win them do so in silence. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below. Let us know where you are watching from, and subscribe for more stories that honor quiet strength and unseen courage.